today we are excited to have a special guest, Gerald White, who is a singer and songwriter, a pianist, and also a vocal coach in Los Angeles. And Kimbra met him when she took a course from him, right? That's the story?
That's right. I took a course at SAG, and I don't think Gerald is teaching at SAG anymore. I think you're doing it out of your own private studio. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very interesting method, which we will ask you about.
Okay.
Whatever you want to divulge anyway.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I want to ask, because everybody that knows me knows that I am not musical at all, but I have a lot of musician friends, so I've always been around it. And I don't think anyone really ever wanted me to sing. Every year on your birthday, you get the call and I sing happy birthday, and they're like, that's enough. My question for you, being a vocal teacher, do you think, and I'm not thinking at this age to try to start a career, but if I did, or for someone younger who has that aspiration, maybe they're not a very good singer, but they would really like to learn to sing, what would you do? Would you be able to help them? Or is it just a gift?
It's both. It's a gift, and it's also, the main thing is that you can sing on pitch. Like if you can't sing on pitch, like you have a problem matching, like if I go, and I can match that pitch, then pretty much you can learn to sing anything.
Try that. Let me try that, because I don't think I can do that. Go ahead. Give me a ding.
Give me a ding.
No.
Okay. Right. Try this one.
Okay. No, I'm not trying to do that on purpose.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So try this one. Try this. I got to find your range too.
Okay.
So let me try it. Let me sing it and you sing it. So sing this note right here.
Sing this note right here.
So you did it. You did it right.
I did
when I say, because sometimes people find it harder to match an instrument, but they can match another voice, and you just matched my voice.
So I got my first lesson here.
So you would have to work on just pitch matching for a while to just get it settled into your body, and then you could work on like songs and stuff like that.
Okay, I just had a question related. Okay.
If you like our videos, go ahead and click on like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Thanks.
I've never been able to do accents, so I went the acting route, but I could never do different accents. Do you think maybe that's kind of in the same vein of not being able to hear?
That is more like, that is a gift, that portion of it, I think.
Okay.
That's like in the session world, we do sound, there's people that sing different styles, but they're their own voice. Like I can sing rock and I can sing jazz, but it's my voice doing those. I'm not a sound-alike person. I can't hear a voice and mimic it.
Okay.
That's interesting.
I think I really do think that's a gift. I think you can get better at it, but the people that do it really well are kind of just born with that gift, I think.
That's interesting. I always thought it was more because I'm a singer that I can do accents pretty well. Like when I was taking French, I could mimic the French accent, but you're saying it's not always the case, right?
Not always the case. It's not always the case. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you can get better at any of the above, but it's like me trying to play basketball. It'll never happen. It'll never happen.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. So what if someone is gifted? Do you think, like, what would you do with them? Like, what kind of polishing would you do to help bring their voice out or make them better?
I'm studied as a technician. So my goal for any singer is to be able to run your instrument and drive it really well. Like you're in control. Your instrument's not in control. So when somebody's just learning how to sing, or even if it's somebody that's had experience, but they're just kind of gone for it, but they don't really control how their voice functions. That's what I work on. So I want you to be able to mend your bridge so that you don't hear a big gap in between your chest voice and your head voice. And I try to get you to have great breath control so that you can really control your voice and drive it. Like if you choose you want to do this, you can do that. If you want to sing a high note and sing it straight tone with no vibrato, you know how to access that.
I was just going to ask you that question because I get that a lot when I'm doing, certain session work. They'll say less vibrato, and that's probably the most challenging thing for me,
Right. Right. And again, it's if you, what you've done the most, if you've just performed and you not had to do that kind of thing, then it's kind of a learned craft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what I would work on. It's just, I want you to be able to really control your instrument and know how it functions and know what you can do and what you can't do. So,
all right. Go ahead.
No, that's it. That's it.
I know I have another dumb question because, I don't know anything about singing, except what I like. What part of your body controls what comes out, the voice? Is it your breath? Is it your oral cavity? Your nasal?
Your breath support is the most important part. So it's like, I compare it, the difference between if you have a paper bag and a balloon, and they both have the same amount of air, the air in the paper bag is just sort of floating around, right? The air in the balloon is compressed. So the air in your lungs should be sort of like the air in the balloon. And it should be compressed. Once it is, and once you learn how to really control your breath support and use your diaphragm, the voice functions really well when that works correctly. If the breath's not working correctly, the voice is not functioning correctly. As far as the nasal and the mouth cavity, all of that changes how the chords function, whether your larynx sits high or whether it sits low, and how your chords come together. That's all determined by the shape that you make with your mouth. Whether you sing like long and vertical or wide, there's all different shapes that your mouth can make that changes the sound and changes how your chords function.
Hey, Kellie, I know you were just having fun when you were singing for Gerald White on our podcast the other day, but I don't think you or I realized the extent of his coaching. He mentioned that he had coached Joseph Williams of the rock group Toto, but then later told us about the actor Al Pacino for the movie Danny Collins. The session work that he's done for all these different TV shows, Frozen to Glee, Game of Thrones, Seth MacFarlane's Family Guy. And then he also did session work in the studio with Neil Young, performed with Adele at the Oscars, and even worked with Whitney Houston and Aretha Franklin. I mean, it's just amazing.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably why I see some singers making like horrible faces when they're singing. They look like they're in pain or something.
I know.
But it sounds beautiful. So
right.
Like Celine Dion.
A lot of that's just, a lot of that's just performing.
Okay.
Performing to the camera.
They're trying to make it look like they're really working.
They're looking like
really
they're
hard.
working hard, and some of them are not.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question about your more advanced singers that you coach, like that method that you had at the Screen Actors Guild, that class that you teach. Did you come up with that method that you teach, the number system, as opposed to doing the solfege? Are you still doing it
for sight reading? Yeah. I did. I started teaching just using theory books, but then the more I did it, the more I started to find out what was getting in the way and what was keeping people from being able to understand. Mm-hmm. And the number system seems to be the most universal. It's something that everybody from every country can understand because we all sing with the same scale structure.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of boiled it down to a few points over time, and it seems to work quicker that way.
Okay. So that's your method that you've developed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, it's Kimbra. I took Gerald White's sight singing vocal class at the SAG building in Los Angeles. He's now teaching the same class at his own studio, which is also in Los Angeles. This method that he teaches is different than the traditional way you learn to sight sing in music school, the solfege or solfeggio method. It's a little more direct, a little easier, a little quicker, if you will. It was a really interesting class. If you just want to learn how to sing for fun, Gerald is a great teacher because he's really easygoing. He doesn't seem judgmental, and he's very patient, which is super important with a coach. So I definitely recommend that you should check him out.
It kind of turned into that. And it was kind of a fluke. I mean, I took that class from another guy that was teaching at the time when I was actually in the class, when there was another teacher. And he retired and said, do you want to teach this class? And I thought, well, yeah, sure. Why not? I didn't really know what I was getting into, but I grew to love it so much. And I saw how many singers are out there that even have like professional careers that didn't know how to read music.
True.
So it just kind of became my passion to see singers start to get excited about really understanding what's on the page, you know?
Yeah, I was telling Kellie a little bit about it, like sight singing, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, it's like learning a new language." And
it is, yeah.
And how is it helpful to be able to read the music?
Well, as a session singer, you have to be able to read. You don't have to read for everything, but for a lot of the music we do, we have to be able to read the music. Like we walk in and do a film session, and they have 25 cues or 25 like short songs on a stand. We've never rehearsed them. We start recording right away. Okay. So we have to just read it down. Otherwise, they have to teach you, and they don't have the time or the money to do that.
So you're just literally reading it and speaking it.
You're reading it and singing it and performing it as if you've rehearsed it for months. Yeah.
Wow.
Do they usually give you the first note or pitch?
They give you have a track. So you have your headphones and you have an orchestral track usually, or if you're doing backup work for an album, you have the recorded album portion of it.
Sure.
And that helps you get the key. Once you know where to start, then you're just reading from there.
Yeah, I've done session work, but usually I get it beforehand. So, you know, if I had to do it that way, I would be nervous. You know, that's why I took a class.
Well, even like with Broadway stuff, some people, you know, audition for Broadway and they walk in and they give them a piece of music and they say, go. And so if you don't know what's, you know, all that means on the page, then you're just completely lost. So it just helps. It keeps conductors and choir directors and producers, it keeps them from having to spend time to teach you. Because if you don't know how to read music, then they're sitting here playing and then you repeat it. Da, 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 da. You're having to learn it by repetition, which just takes a lot longer. So it saves time.
And money.
And money, of course.
So I was reading your bio, and it was like a list of a lot of work that you've done. Can you share some of the experiences and some of the, you know, more recognizable things that you've done in your career?
I would say one of the most fun gigs I ever did was Happy Feet.
Hi, everyone. It's Kimbra. I listened to the soundtrack of Happy Feet, and oh my gosh, I was so impressed because it had the amazing Patti LaBelle, and the songs are so uplifting. And it actually starred everyone from Robin Williams to Nicole Kidman to Hugh Jackman. What a great experience. How lucky Gerald was to sing with that choir. It was beautiful.
Because when we recorded that, the choir was there, and Yolanda Adams was there, and Patti LaBelle was there. So it was just one of those magical moments where it was so exciting to be in the studio, and we were watching the film as we were recording to it high. That was one. Another one was Glee. I really enjoyed working on Glee.
I loved that show, Glee.
All the seasons, yeah. And that was we did the underscore music for that show. So when you're watching the show and you hear the dialogue and you hear music underneath with it, bum 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 bum. That was about 5 of us doing that. So that was fun. And that was also a reading gig. That was a gig we were called in and recorded really fast through a lot of those charts.
Wow.
So
I was going to ask you if you had any funny stories, like from different session work that you've done. Like I remember you telling us once about some Aretha Franklin story about she played the piano and her ring would always clank on the piano. Was that you that told me this? I remember, right?
It was working on her Christmas album. She played it and she only wanted to she just sat down and she was so good. She would just sound fantastic and play for herself, but her rings were hitting the keyboard. And they didn't, they told her, Miss Franklin, this sounds great, but you hear a lot of clicking through the recording.
Right.
And she was like, she was like, you have to fix it. I'm not doing it again.
Fix it in the mix.
Oh,
They had to fix it in the mix.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Only Aretha Franklin could get away with something like that.
Could get away with it. Exactly.
Mhm.
Right.
Wow.
What singer have you been the most impressed by that you've worked with that's famous? Or, there may be a couple of them that you thought was really, you were really impressed, if there was anyone.
I would say Joseph Williams with Toto.
Really?
I guess it was the dedication. They had been on tour early on, and then he came in, and they had not been on tour for a long, several years.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came back to me, and they had a tour coming up, and he had just not sung in a long time. And he got in there and did the work, and it was fun to watch, him work several days a week, and in 6 weeks bring his voice back from where it used to be, or to where it used to be when they toured, 20 years ago. And it just goes to show, over time, if you don't use your voice, you do lose it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get it back if you're dedicated and work on it every day.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to be, my old voice coach used to always say that, Kimbra, you're not a singer unless you vocalize every day.
Every day. And you can go 2 weeks even. I mean, I noticed during COVID, and myself included, you were this crazy year we went through on all levels, and we didn't get to sing much. And when you don't have a project to work toward, a show coming up or a session, or, I wasn't teaching because at the beginning, nobody, everybody quit everything for a while. So I noticed a difference, right in the beginning, where you don't sing for a while, 2 weeks even, and you're like, oh, where did that note go?
Yeah, and especially with COVID, how they were saying like singing is the most forbidden thing to do.
It's forbidden, and it killed our business. I mean, hopefully we're close to being over that.
Right.
But we were considered the super spreaders.
I know, right?
Even more than actors. Like, actors could go on set, but they don't want the singers to. So
yeah, because you're like, spew.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hi, it's Kimbra. Al Pacino is known to be one of the greatest actors of his generation, and he's definitely one of the more famous students that Gerald has had. Well, apparently he didn't like doing the vocal exercises all that much, which I got to confess can be a little boring sometimes, but they're definitely a necessary part of any vocal lesson. So to work around that, Gerald learned the songs that Al liked to sing. So he started, singing those songs, and then he started feeling more comfortable, and then began to learn the songs for the movie Danny Collins. So there you go.
So we're talking about you do a lot of session work. So years ago, I worked at William Morris Agency, and I worked with a lot of the voiceover artists. So is it kind of the same idea, the same, you're heard but not seen?
Yes.
But you're singing. You're just singing instead of.
It's the same thing. The two major differences are, as a voiceover artist, I think you guys have agents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have agents that send you out for auditions and stuff.
Yes.
In the session world, it's different. It's changing. It's changing more to what you're talking about now. But for the most part, you have to get on the list of what we call contractors, who sort of serve as agents, but they don't get a percentage. And they get called by the composers or the producer that's going to need backup vocals for the next Michael Bublé album or the next Justin Bieber, or they need, a choir on camera for a TV show. And the way you get in is you have to be on their list. And the way you get on their list is that you try to meet them somehow, you get their emails and send them demos of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, they'll start to use you. And if they trust you, then you become one of their people on their list, which these lists are really long. But there's only probably, I would say, 5 or so main contractors in town that do all of the work. And your goal is to get on those lists. It's
right.
Because we don't have agents. So there's nobody out there sending us on an audition. Right. So once you get on their list, they're not sending you on an audition. They just call you up and say, okay, 2 weeks from now, we're going to sing the soundtrack to Happy Feet.
Wow.
And then you show up. and hopefully do a good job.
Yeah. So you stay on the list.
So you stay on the list, but that's how it's different. And the other part, how you're hired is different. And the other part is voiceover actors, I think, work alone a lot. And in the session world, it's mostly in groups.
That's
sometimes
true.
You get called to do solo stuff. That's kind of different on the level of being hired, especially through SAG doing union stuff, or if it's non-union too. It's more we need 4 singers for a project, or we need 24 singers for a project. So you're working in groups. That's the difference.
Okay.
Gerald, do you find that you personally get called in with the same group of people that you see all the time?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it took so many years. I think you probably remember this in class. It took so many years to get in. You know, I moved here when I was 22. I started working when I was probably 33 or 32, somewhere around in there. And it just takes so long to get to know these people that hire, and for them to get to trust you and know that you're around for the long haul and that you have a good reputation. I mean, you can come into LA and be the best singer ever, but they're never going to hire you right away. They want to know what you've done. They want to know that other singers work with you and like you and trust you, and, you know, you're professional and all that kind of stuff. So once I got in, getting in, I would always think, why can't I get in? This is, you know, I came from my small town. I was good at what I did. Why aren't they hiring me? And then when I finally got in and saw the same people, like you just asked me, over and over and over, then now I still, to this day, I walk in and think, gosh, it's a miracle that I'm in this group. Because
count your lucky stars.
It's a small group.
Mm-hmm.
In the big picture, it's a small group, you know.
Yeah. The voiceover world is like that too. They use the same people over and over again.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. The biggies, you know, the big names. That William Morris, we had all the top voiceover talent. And they didn't usually have to audition, you know, like Sally Kellerman and Phil Hartman and I can't remember a couple other ones. Fred.
Well, I remember Don Fontaine. Was it Don Fontaine? Or
yeah, he passed away, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the big names I remember.
They had him they have a Don Fontaine lab at SAG, I believe, where you can learn how to do voiceover work and practice.
Right.
Yeah. So once you're in, you're in. It's just hard to get in.
It's hard to get in. And it's changing now. I mean, I can't imagine how the young people, because of social media and because of the internet, you know, when I was getting in, there was none of that. So you had to really network and get to know these people. Now, you know, you've got Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and
that's true,
and the internet, so they can find these people without having to go through contractors. That's why it's starting to change.
Yeah.
You know, if they need a you know, a Hispanic girl to sing, you know, a salsa song, or just throwing out an example, instead of calling them these contractors, they just put out a blast on social media.
Oh, yeah.
So it's starting to bypass, you know, so now more people have an opportunity to get in, I would say.
Yeah.
But there's more competition now. So
that's true. It's like this, right?
Yeah, of course.
The internet's just changed so much. It's funny. You'll go, you know, I'll watch a YouTube video, be like the top 10, whatever, failing stars right now. And like 8 of them will be YouTubers or TikTok people, or I'm like, these are the famous people now, not just movie,
influencers.
Movies and but they're considered famous.
Sure.
And it's just so funny. I'm like, I don't even know these people, but you know, the younger generation, that's their world. It's not so much the film and TV stars and musicians.
Right. And they're not, we used to be vetted, so to speak. Like if an artist made it onto a record deal to be heard on the radio, if you were a rock singer, it was the top people. And I don't mean this out of any disrespect to the newer generation, but it's just a whole different package now. Yeah. To be a #1 star on TikTok, you can, they're making, I'm working with a few 19, 20, 21-year-olds that are stars on TikTok, and they're doing really well. But there's a whole package now. it's not just your voice, it's your look. There's a whole
how many followers you have.
How many followers you do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes
just being outrageous is enough, just wild and crazy.
It's true.
Yeah.
And the record companies are now finding the singers or the performers or the whoever who have the most followers. And that's who they go to, regardless of what the talent is.
Yep.
Because if they've got 5 million followers, what difference does it make? They put their money behind them and get 10 million and, make a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. Which,
it's a whole different world.
Yeah. The entertainment industry, it really always has been about money.
Sure.
It's just that talent, doesn't always win out these days.
Right.
I was going to ask you though, when you're doing your coaching, do you coach all different styles like rock, Broadway, R&B?
I do.
Yeah, I
do. I studied classical, and ironically, I don't really work with a lot of classical artists. If they're classical and they're serious about it, I usually refer them to somebody that's all they do.
Sure.
Because they know the lingo, they know the terms, they know, but I work with all the other styles, pop, a lot of Broadway singers are moving from New York, even during COVID.
Really?
Moving from New York to LA to get into, quote, Broadway here, because they think that the film industry is making films of all the Broadway shows. So they kind of feel like they'll get in that way, which some of them may. I don't know exactly how that's all working, but there's a lot of people moving here to do Broadway, even though Broadway's in New York.
And also though, because of COVID, Broadway was really, stopped to a halt, so hopefully it'll start opening up again. So maybe they thought they could get other kinds of work too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Into film or whatever. Who knows?
So Gerald, your resume says that you're a songwriter. What songs have you written? Anything that we would know of, or that you would want to share with us? A few more?
No. I've had years ago. I had some stuff placed on like logo from an album that I did, a decade or so ago. But I haven't written much lately. The last song I wrote, that's of any significance, I think, is called "What Is My Song." I wrote it from that movie experience of Happy Feet. Going home, thinking, have I made what I really wanted to do? And I realized that day, I guess I have gotten here. And so I went home that day, wrote a song called "What Is My Song?" Basically, where do I fit in life? You know how the penguin in the movie couldn't sing. And he was the one that was, the outcast of all the penguins. And so, but he could dance, which then made him a star. So the whole song is kind of about, where is my place in life, and have I gotten there?
Right. Yeah. Taking your gift and doing the best you can with what you've been given.
Right.
And so you feel like you've come to that point that is what you've done and you feel fulfilled? I
do. I feel very blessed, even though COVID made you rethink a lot of things. But yes, yeah, I feel blessed.
And out of all your accomplishments, do you think is performing your number one love? Is it teaching? Is it all of it? All of it?
I would say all of it. And what I like about what I do is it is a variety. I think I would not, because I've been on the road with bands before early on. And I used to teach before I got in the session business. I used to teach 8 hours a day, sometimes 10 hours a day. And I realized that it was what it was then, and it was good for me. But now I love the fact that one day I'm doing a session, one day I'm teaching, one day I'm doing 2 classes, and I like the variety. It just kind of keeps things interesting, and I don't know.
Yeah, you're like me. I get bored if I do one thing too often.
Well, and teaching takes so much from you.
That's true.
If you're really into it, because when you're teaching, as you know, you're not like at an office job where you can stop and take a drink of Coke and go to the restroom.
Right.
Once you start the lesson, you're on, and then the next person's waiting at the door when that one's over, and it just goes back to back. And for me to be in it 100%, I can only do about 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I start to like, you know, I can't focus as well, and it's not fair to the students, I don't think.
That's true. I think 4 hours is a good time for everything.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm all for the 4 to 6 hour workday.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Me too. Wow.
Anyway, well, this has been really great. I know that you have another class you got to teach, but if our listeners want to find you, we're going to have your one-on-one music link underneath. And are you officially teaching again? Like, you know, post-COVID?
I am. In fact, I'm here today. I'm here today. Thank goodness, because people are starting to come back. People have been vaccinated, you know, and they feel comfortable. I think the next round, I'm doing sight singing online right now.
Oh, okay.
Through Zoom. But I think the next round starting was May, June, maybe July, I'll start in person here at the studio, if all goes well. So yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to get back to work.
To see people again. You know?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And all of that now is because you had mentioned this earlier. I used to do it at SAG. I'm now doing it at my studio in Santa Monica. So it's the same class and everything. It's just sponsored a little bit differently. But all of that information can be found on Music 101, my voice lessons, the sight singing classes, workshops, stuff like that.
Are you still doing it like it's like a 6-week course kind of thing? Yeah. Okay.
You know, I've thought about doing the boot camp style. Maybe.
Yeah, I've done that before. Those are quite interesting too.
Are you familiar with like Barry's boot camp, where you have certain classes that you know or every week and you pick which one you want to go to?
Oh, I haven't done it that way. No.
I'm sort of working on that, but we'll see.
I've done vocal boot camps like over a weekend where they would make us do these exercises and stuff, like real hardcore physical things.
Oh yeah.
You've heard of that?
Yeah.
It's while you're vocalizing while you're doing sit-ups and just
wow,
weird stuff.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet, but
yeah.
I don't know. Sky's the limit, I guess.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we hope to have you back in the future. And
of course,
you keep us posted on what you're doing.
Well, and you guys make this so easy.
Yeah.
You make this interview process so easy. I always get a little nervous before I do it. So
really,
so kudos. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's interesting, and we appreciate you sharing your wisdom. You know, I mean, you'll hopefully touch a lot of people and share your gift with others and help them. So we appreciate you coming on, and we'll spread the word about what you do.
Yeah, because Gerald, everybody wants to sing. I that's how I
yes,
from my experience, right? So
right.
And that's why I wanted you to come on, because I wanted them to hear about what you do. And you're so you come from a really loving place. You're not
thank you.
Not hard to be around. Let me just put that way.
And even if it's not as a career, if it's just to learn, you know, to me, it's someone who can't sing, even though I sing really loud in the car by myself. It's like the greatest expression of emotion in a positive way. That what a gift to be able to sing.
You know what? And to piggyback on that, my most consistent student base that even survived through COVID, just because a lot of singers that are trying to make a living as a singer were not working, are hobbyists, are people that are not quote singers. They're bankers. And their bucket list was always to learn to sing. And
exactly,
I end up with those people that literally take years of voice lessons, which is so much fun because it's a different sort of a different approach and a different feeling. They're not ready, they're not getting ready for a performance. They're just wanting to explore this new thing they've never done, which is so much fun for me.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. You know, I'm singing in this one group where they're not professional musicians. For them, it's just fun because they've always their bucket list was always to be in a band. You know, one's a lawyer, one's a dentist, but they all wanted to be in a band. So, you know, sometimes those are the most fun people to be around because they work hard. They work really hard, you know?
Right. Yep. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nice to meet you,
Gerald.
Kellie.
Yeah. Nice to meet you too. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Gerald. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.